Good afternoon, friends, and welcome to Open Book 2025. I am Lufefe Boss, and I am so privileged to welcome you to today's panel, Recovering from Childhood. We will be in conversation exploring how writers grapple with the legacies of family, the weight of trauma, and the ways in which storytelling allows us to reimagine survival, love, and identity. But first, just some housekeeping. This is my first time chairing a panel at Open Book. So in cases of emergency, please do not look at me. And secondly, please just make sure your phones are on silent, and please take as many pictures as you want, because then you'll be able to send them to me. And then, so we're good to go. All right. So our three authors each take us into very different worlds, but all touch on what happens when the people who shape us most, our parents, families, and communities, also leave us with wounds to heal. Lebo Mazibuko, Lebo, was born in Johannesburg and grew up in the township of Pimville, Soweto. She discovered her passion for storytelling at a young age, attending school at the National School of the Arts, where she matriculated. She is a trained theatre performer, having obtained her BTech in the Dramatic Arts at the Tshwane University of Technology. She is the author of Fabrics of Love, and she introduces us to the Ndoi women of Soweto, who are beautiful, determined, and resilient, but who also carry the scars of family secrets and inherited trauma. Sven Axelrad. Sven was born in New Zealand to a French-speaking British father and a South African mother and lives in Durban. He is an accountant who reads 65 books a year, plays the guitar, is covered in tattoos, and loves his dog and his wife.
Thank you. Yeah. On the book, I left out the wife part. I've been in a lot of trouble for it.
In the Nicotine Gospel, Sven traces the journey of two brothers, Nathan and Danny, who are raised under the shadow of their eccentric father's self-made gospel. And the novel explores how the reckoning that comes when they confront their pasts as adults. Ntombifuthi Nkabinde. Ntombi is the debut author. Ntombi has an interest in adult and YA fiction. She is born and raised in Johannesburg. She received her Bachelor of Arts degree in Psychology and Psychometrics from the University of South Africa and the University of Johannesburg. In her spare time, she enjoys concerts, movies, and a good cup of coffee. She also has a blog where she shares spiritual insights and messages around topical themes and submits short stories for literary magazines which features a rich diversity of African writers. With her novel, In the Later of Night, she brings us into the lives of four women navigating love, motherhood, friendship, and heartbreak, showing how the echoes of family and personal histories shape the choices that they make. Round of applause for our authors, please. So I want to open by asking all of you, what drew you to write stories that are so intertwined with family and histories and the shadows? Was there a personal spark, or was there another way that these people came to you?
You want to start with me?
I'm going to start with you.
Okay. First of all, it's so great. I was in a panel here last year, just in the audience, and a guy came in and he fell asleep on my shoulder while I was sitting in the front row. And it's always been such a lovely, it's just a complete stranger just slept on my shoulder for an hour. So it's nice to be on the start of it. I didn't set out on purpose to write that story. I was in a time where my book's just come out this year, and it's my third. But I actually wrote this about 5 years ago, an initial draft. And it was when I was being completely rejected by publishers, and in my mind, I had no hope of getting a book out to the public. And I just wrote a story that was on my heart, and vaguely regret it now, because I never imagined I'd be sitting in front of a room and talking about my family to you guys, because it was extremely personal and internal. So at the same time, I don't think I would have been able to write what I wrote if I thought that I would have to talk about it. So there's a weird interplay here where the lack of external feedback made it possible, you know? Yeah. You guys?
Yeah, I'd like to echo that. When I was writing the story, I didn't set out to write about childhood traumas, things that happened in the past, but you cannot write a character without actually exploring what happened to them when they were growing up. There's a lot of things that you see with people, but also you have to understand the underlying symptoms or the behaviors that they exhibit and actually understand. You have to understand that backwards to see if a person is reacting or behaving like this. There's almost things that they went through in the past that is making them to actually show up like this in the public. So not necessarily to set out writing about childhood trauma. I do also regret it because now I am here in this segment that is exploring childhood traumas.
Yeah, well, I come from a very close-knit family. I come from a family where we see each other all the time, like every weekend, and you know, and my friends are always so envious, like, oh my gosh, your family is so amazing, and they are amazing. Disclaimer, they are amazing, but it always fascinated me how we just don't talk about the things that matter. So even as I was growing up, I found the things that I was experiencing outside, I found it strange that I couldn't come to my mom or my dad and say, this is what I'm going through, this is what I'm facing, this is what I'm dealing with. So I think that the work that I write is work that I wish I had. As a teenage girl dealing with heartbreak, with, you know, just it's a way for me to just also open up those conversations in Black families, especially, and in very strict religious homes where certain topics are just off limits and taboo.
Yeah, I think it's quite interesting that you said you wanted to create stories that you needed, because reading your and Ntombi's stories, one of the first things I noticed was how familiar everything felt, from the township to the characters. And so, you know, the women carry both pride and pain. So I do want to ask you, how did you approach writing about generational trauma in a way that both honors resilience, but also does not just gloss over the hurt?
I think I look at the women in my own family. I have a deep admiration for my grandmothers, a deep admiration for my mom. And it took me such a long time to understand her. It was only when I became a woman that I began to understand my mom. I found her, our relationship is very strange. She thinks I'm a very strange child, you know, and something as basic as I like short things because I think I have nice legs. And for her, it's like, but why otsotsi? Like, why are you not dressed properly? You know, she's such a conservative a woman, but she's deeply spiritual, and I those are qualities about her that I admire. And with her raising me and with me dealing with my own pains, I started seeing her as a woman first. I had to strip away the fact that this is my mom and she didn't show me affection and she didn't do this and didn't do that, and blaming her for certain things, but trying to understand, where does she come from? Who are the people that raised her and who hurt her along the way? What pain is she covering through all of this? And why is she raising me in this way? Because I think sometimes our parents try to protect us. They think maybe if I tell you everything that is biblically wrong, You won't, I'm protecting you. But I think having a conversation about, okay, if you think if I do this and that, it will lead me to this, because I've experienced this. I was in my 30s when my mom told me that her father was an alcoholic. And how he died, basically. They found him in the streets, and somebody, after a night of drinking. Then I understood, this is why you hate alcohol, And I'm a girl the only one sitting with a glass of wine.
I'm so hungover from the last 2 days, I just can't touch it. Yeah. I was just thinking, that's so fantastic what you said. Like, writing for me, and it sounds like for you, is like, it's a forced act of forgiveness, because you have to imagine that person's point of view, and to see them not just as you said, your mom sees you as a strange child, you see her in a certain way until you truly considered her as an entire person outside of the role of your mom.
Yeah.
And now you've got to try and imagine that, and empathy can't help but flow.
Yeah, she's a girl, because we never separate us. That little girl still lives in me, and I'm still trying to go back and heal her. And I'm even trying to understand love and understanding, why do I have toxic ideas about love? And then I think, there's that boy when I was 13 that did this. So I'm trying to go back to that little girl. So in the same way, I have to look at my mom like there's a girl, there's a woman before she became a wife and a mother. Drag.
Let's go.
But I also think it's so poetic for you to put pride and pain in one sentence, because we carry a lot of our pain with so much pride. And for me, it's so triggering to hear someone say, oh my gosh, you're such a strong woman, you're so resilient, because I just feel like I don't even have to be this strong woman. I look at my mother, and every time somebody says I'm strong, I just think of my mother, because I look at her strong and resilient, but I also know why she had to be strong. Because there was a man in her life who was not doing what a man is supposed to be doing, I guess also maybe I'm revealing my own childhood trauma here, which I also put in the book, by the way, with Nomzamo's character. She had a father who wasn't working, so the mother has to actually look after 2 kids and a man. And she's asking herself, why is this man not working? Why are you not doing?
So she had 3 kids.
She had 3 kids, but the other one is a fully grown man. And you're just like, your mother didn't have to be strong, if this man that was in your life was actually doing what he was supposed to be doing, So, it's actually quite triggering if somebody calls me strong, because it takes me back to my mom. Because I also know that she would have wanted to, to be free, to be a cared for woman, what we call a soft life, but you can't, because you have 3 kids and the other one is a fully grown man.
There's a saying, in Sesotho where they say, Musadi o tshwara thipa ka mo bogale. Yeah, and that's something that we are raised with. It means a woman holds the knife by its sharpest end. And we are taught that from a very young age, that to be a woman means pain, it means suffering, it means enduring.
Wow.
And it doesn't have to be that. Why?
Yeah.
I also want to hold the knife by that soft
like
part.
men.
I don't want to hold it there by the blade. Why?
Sven, I'm always amazed by South Africans' ability to take mud and turn it into a rainbow. I think the genius of South Africa is that we can find humor in everything and anything. So the gospel is both absurd, tragic, humorous, and all of those. But like, how did you balance writing that? How did you find that balance?
I mean, just for a little bit of context, the reason it's crazy is because the nicotine gospel, we're saying that my boys, their mother does via an act of fate, a lightning strike kills their mom, and they're left with their father, who invents, in his grief, he can't deal with what's going on, so he tries to control what's around him by creating a gospel out of cigarettes. So I'd be able to tell, he would be able to tell what kind of person you are by what you choose to smoke and how you smoke it. And he teaches this new religion to his kids, and it's the only time that they spend any time together. So they're not particularly into it, but they want to be with their father, so they have to learn his ways. Which is obviously crazy, and I taught myself to smoke for the book and tried to invent this gospel almost like a zodiac, which is madness. I went down that way, and it doesn't work. But the idea of control is to sort of if I can control what's around me by being able to predict you and what you do, I can control my circumstances. And I'm going way off the question, but the answer to how the humor comes into it and how to balance it is one, survival mechanisms. I think the reason I created this crazy gospel, because this isn't my life story. I grew up with a single mom, and that's why what you're saying now resonates with my experience with watching my mom. Came close to crying. I didn't dare. And in order to get close to my story, to like actually write about the serious thing that happened to me and the trauma that happened when I was a kid, I couldn't walk up to it face to face, found. And I keep on saying I can dissociate from anything, you know? But the only way to get up to it was to put this veneer of a bit of a wacky, bit of a crazy cigarette angle. And then all of a sudden I could walk up to my childhood trauma where there were abusive men in my life, and where I could actually like look at it closely, in order to look at, my story isn't a story of just trauma, like none of us are. There's so much joy and life, and the only way you can look at tragedy is to put it right next to love, like that, next to each other. And when you look at, like, let's say that's tragedy as my backdrop, a black backdrop of all this hardship that we went through. And then the book's actually written as a tribute to my brother who brought me up. And he shines against this black backdrop. And all the humor shines, but it shines all the brighter for the darkness that's contrasting it. You know?
Yeah. That is amazing. Wonderful applause. Thanks for that. So I want to put all of you on the spot and just...
No!
We're already on the spot.
You're already on the spot. So how much do you think our parents' unresolved struggles shape who we become? Even when we try to resist, because Lebo, I'm thinking about your book in particular, because there's a passage on page 85 where as a reader you realize that Buwang's choices are somewhat holding Rosemary back.
Rosemary, the character in my book, she has a fear of becoming her mom.
Yeah.
And she tries to, and yet she's her mom in every way possible. And she's put herself in this role of being protector of because Rosemary is a woman a girl who's very observant. She looks and watches what everyone else is doing and tries to not make the same mistakes that everyone else is making. But also she sees how her mother her mom is the matriarch, but she's been abused, essentially, financially and emotionally by the family. But she just feels that it is her obligation, but also it's her way of connecting with her father, of gaining her father's approval, which, well, you know. So Rosemary wants to protect her mother, but at the same time, it is fighting with every fiber of her being to not become her mother, not become a victim of heartbreak, not become a victim of family and inherited trauma. But in the same breath, I think as I even look at my own life, I am becoming my mom in some ways. You come from these people, it's really hard to separate yourself from them. There are parts, they teach you from a very young age, and they things that I know we always say when we're growing up, we're trying to unbecome everything we've been taught, but certain things stick. And not all of it is bad. There are some very valuable things that we get. And I think there is also some strength beauty in that strength that Black women have had to possess. Otherwise our communities would be falling apart. And Dwang is that kind of woman. She's holding down the community in the same way as she's holding down this home. Yeah.
Yeah. Ntombi, Sven?
So much of me also comes from my mother. I think it's when I started studying psychology, that's when I just took a hard look at myself. And I told myself, I actually don't want to become like this woman, my mother. But not with everything, because like you're saying, there are some good, she taught me some very good lessons. Because I wouldn't want to actually fall apart because there is a man in my life that's not doing what he's supposed to be doing. So also that strength, that resilience to say, yes, there is other things that are not working great, but what am I doing? I can't fall apart and I can't fail my daughter because of somebody else. But yeah, a lot of who I am was shaped by her. But it's also so beautiful, this process of unbecoming, because I'm also taking responsibility for my recovery, my road to healing. You cannot blame your parents forever. At some point, you are also grown up now, so what are you doing about it? So yeah, it's been quite fascinating. It still lives some negative things, because I'm also cognizant of the fact that I don't want to bring a useless man around my daughter, because what am I teaching her? So it's a constant battle, you can never fully say I have recovered from my childhood traumas. They shape you, they are with you each and every day. The choices that you make, I have to always think, am I acting like my mother, or am I acting like this person who's on the road to recovery? So it's just constant in your brain. But also with my characters, a lot of them are shaped by their parents, their mothers in particular. Nomzamo always wants to make sure that she has a man that is working, because her father was not working, was a burden. Keone as well, the father was cheating, so now when she makes decisions around dating, she wants to make sure that this person is not cheating, and if he is cheating, she's going to leave, Jasmine, oh gosh, there's a lot of traumas there, shame Jasmine. But yeah, I think my characters also were shaped by what they went through in their younger lives, just like I was as well.
This is it's fascinating for me, because on Friday night I was on a panel about music and masculinity, but it was a panel of men talking about it. And I said, a disclaimer up the front of that panel, I was like, guys, I don't have any answers to you for this masculinity thing. I grew up without a dad, and I feel like I'm behind the game. But we explored it, and it's so, I feel like I'm learning much more listening to you guys talk about it now, in the the masculinity side of things. But I loved what you said now as well, where you, both of you actually, you can't recover from it entirely. You can turn the frown upside down. That's very possible, kind of biblical. But none of us probably, I imagine, would have been here today without our trauma, because we're driven to write the things we write. I think artists in general are people that have experienced pain, which is a great question as to what is art, because everyone's got pain, and I'm watching people, and these days I'm starting to think that you watch a mom be a mom, and it's art to me. You watch someone be a good person, you watch someone, no matter what you're doing, if you do it with a little bit of style and intention, I believe it's art. And what you're doing is taking whatever you've been dealt, those cards, and you're working with it, and you're recovering. I think art is a process of recovery in general. And yeah, so I can't recover. My dad has been absent most of my life, but he's a fascinating man. Translated for the UN, loves literature, was never abusive or anything to me. It was his absence that caused other people to come in. But literature has brought me together with him. So although I've seen him a handful of times since I was 8 years old, I started when I wrote these books, and this book in particular, which would be harder to do, right? I started emailing him more. And I was like, Dad, can you help me with my writing? Like as writing, not as let's talk about what the story's about. Help me with the technicalities of my writing. And to his credit, he jumped straight into it, and it's brought us quite close together. Not to a point where like if the phone rang now and his name came up, I would be reluctant to answer it. But if an email comes in, I email him a couple times a week. So there is a lot of recovery happening through the act of art, and I can't really regret my past, you know.
I do have to ask though, how do you protect yourselves when visiting painful themes in your writing? Do you have rituals? Do you have things that you do?
I'm glad that you guys have alcohol. I do drink. I do drink, but yeah, alcohol does absolutely nothing for me. Other people take weed. It also does nothing to me. So
You don't get high?
I don't. No, but edibles. Oh, that's where the problem is, yeah. So, I don't know, I sleep, I guess. I sleep.
Oh, dissociation. Yeah, you dissociate. Yeah.
Sleep on his shoulder.
I sleep on your shoulder.
Yeah, welcome.
Yeah. I mean, I think writing is healing, is my way of dealing. It's because I've also been journaling since I was a child, so it's cathartic for me in many ways. It's a way to release all of it. So yeah, I don't need to. Yeah, the writing is the healing.
And I don't think, well, I don't know if your experiences, and it's very much a credit to all of you, even the ones I don't know, are like, you don't need to protect yourself. Like, I found that I've walked, like I said, I didn't expect to be talking about this stuff to anyone. But as I stumbled through this trapdoor and found myself here, I've been met with nothing but kindness. I've been met, like, the emotion always jumps out at me. I've been met with nothing but kindness, and I've been vulnerable about it. And that's where you're saying, well, maybe protect yourself. But I found that everyone just felt like people just gathered around me and protected me. That's all I got.
Thank you so much. So, one of the themes that I found tied all of your three books together was that secrets and silence leave scars. Was that something you were thinking about while you were writing?
Sorry,
that
can
you
you
had
please
to.
repeat that? Sorry, I didn't get that.
Secrets and silence leave scars.
Okay.
So was that something that was on the back of your mind while you were writing, that you had to find a way to reveal as much as you could?
So I guess secrets and scars. yeah. There's not a lot of secrets in my life. Everything has, there's not a lot of secrets. Everything was just on the table from day one for me. The scars are really not from the secrets, but from what I know and what I have lived. But yeah, with one of the characters in the book, there are some secrets that she is dealing with, pertaining also to who her father is. And that can leave a lot of scars on a person because you're made by two people. And if you don't know the other 50% of who you are, you can walk around not really fully knowing who you are as a person, and that can leave a lot of scars because essentially you don't know who am I, and how do you deal with that, who you are and who you're becoming, if first of all you don't know who you are as a person.
I think, that's where generational trauma comes in, because if you put a bandage over a wound, you bleed onto the next generation. And the one character, actually, Lemohang, he's the grandfather. He's a man, a black man, who, because I think even with the older generation, it's hard for them to cry as black men and express themselves, but he's a man who's deeply in grief. So he hasn't recovered from the loss of his wife, but also the things that happened in their marriage that were never, that they didn't talk about it, just swept it under the carpet. And this is a man who beats, not physically beats his daughter. His daughter is much older, obviously, in the story, but he's been bleeding onto Buang. He's been grieving on top of her for many years and punishing her for the things that happened in his marriage. Because I think it is that thing as black men where they don't have an outlet. There's no therapy for them, or, you can't say, oh, my wife really hurt me, we're experiencing this, or she betrayed me in this way. And even after losing his wife, he couldn't cry about it. And then after losing his wife, he lost his son in some sense. So yeah, it definitely, when you don't heal the thing, it comes out in other ways, and it affects the next generation.
Yeah.
And to add, sorry, Sven, to add to that, especially with black men, I have a bone to pick with them. Because, like, guys, come on, you can't say, no, I'm a black man, and black men, we don't talk to strangers about our problems.
Yeah.
But then do you understand that if you don't do that, you bleed onto other people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why they say, as psychologists, your clients are really, they're not the people who should be there. There's someone that is causing this pain.
I got it.
So I have a problem with that.
Yeah.
There's so many things. You don't necessarily have to go to like a licensed psychologist. You can speak to your pastor. There's avenues, guys, to offload this grief that you are carrying around, because
Absolutely.
if you don't, it becomes a problem to other people.
Yeah.
Can I just defend Lemohang for a little bit? He's an elderly black man, and I think in the time, this is a family that's coming from Sophia Town. He lost his home through the forced removals, and they find themselves in Meadowlands. So that, for his generation, men then, it wasn't a thing,
That's also true.
There's a fable about a tree, a strong tree, oak tree, and a reed. And when the wind blows, the oak tree is always strong and making fun of the reeds. But when the wind blows, it blows hard enough, the tree falls over, but the reeds just blow and they come back to where they were. And I think a lot of the men in my life as well have been afraid of their emotions. But it looks strong. It looks very strong. It looks composed. But when the wind is strong enough, they will blow down. And the rest of us that are able to be a little bit vulnerable and deal, there's emotional strength is a real strength, and you cannot have it by walling up and pretending it's not happening to you. You know. Your question was about silences and secrets. So like interestingly, so my brother and I went through all of this stuff together, and I'm close to my brother. I'm very close to him. He lives a short scooter ride up the road, and I go hang out with him and his kids all the time, and like we watch movies together. But when this book came out, I took him for some Korean food, and I realized we've never spoken about it. Never. Wow. Like I've spent my entire life with him like this, like all our music playing, learning the guitar together, talking, just so much time, and we've never spoken about it. And I started asking him a couple of questions, and I went into therapy this year because I knew this book was coming out, and I was like, I need to learn how to do this.
To cry on stage.
And I spoke to my brother about it, and there's certain things. I mean, why there's so much silence there, and I know why it's there with like my mom and that, because I've always felt like I needed to protect her. Like, and if I bring this stuff up, there's so much guilt around when there's a traumatic past. There's a lot of guilt there, and I've always been careful with that with my mom. But even that, my caution with my mom has created distance, and I don't want that. So there's a whole bunch of stuff to work out. But I even asked my brother, and I wasn't sure he would give me a straight answer. He can dissociate much better than I can. And he said, no, he remembers. I said, do you remember that house that we would go to on the weekends? And he said, yeah, I know he remembers. And he surprised me. He just said, yeah, there was a door. He doesn't remember much about it because we were young. We were like 4 or 5. But there was one door in the house, and he was terrified of that door. And there's a bunch of stuff that he remembers that I don't remember. And all of a sudden, we haven't spoken a lot about this stuff, but the silences have been going away a little bit, you know? Yeah.
That's so, I'm sorry, but to just jump in, when you spoke about guilt, I was just thinking about even just during the festival, and I saw the topics. I was put on a thing about difficult mothers and recovering from childhood, and then I thought, damn, I can't put this on my WhatsApp status because my mom's gonna see this, you know. But there is that need to protect her, you know.
Which I've had since I was little as well. So it's like as a little kid, I used to wait till my brother and my mom went to sleep, and then I'd get up and put my hands on their chest and like make sure that they were breathing. Like, and there's that. What's wrong with me today? I'm just like trying to say things that make me cry, but that the spirit of that stays. But it's, as all child coping mechanisms, they so useful at the time that you need them, but now we have to unlearn them, and that's no longer useful for me to try and protect my mom from that. It's, if I want to be close with her, I have to unlearn that and give her the credit to be able to deal and converse with me on a level, you know?
I do want to hand over to the audience, but I do have some questions before, so please get your questions ready so long. You know, I will confess that every day I wake up and I feel totally unprepared for this world. So, and you know, and one of the things that gets me through is literature and reading. So as a reader, I'm always curious to hear from other people. What does literature mean to you? Is it, like in my case, the accumulation of knowledge? Is it the hope for wisdom? What is literature to you?
Do you want me to go first? To me, it's the thing that kept me alive. I mean, I've always been a creative, but when I'm an accountant, by the way. I work at a factory that makes tampons. And that you can imagine as an 8-year-old that wasn't my dream job. And there was a time where I was studying auditing, and all this stuff kills my soul, honestly. And we're laughing, but I mean it kills my soul. And I went, and I found myself slipping into this depression. And the thing I grabbed for, I wasn't a writer at the time, I was a musician, but what I did was, I found 20 minutes in the day and I wrote. And that's the thing I reached up and grabbed. And that's what literature is still to me to this day, is the thing that I grab for that keeps me above the water. And it comes with so much else. It means so much to me. Everything you said, I love the humor, I love learning about people, I love language. But more than any of that, it's the thing that keeps me alive, yeah.
Yeah, for me it's an escape because I was bullied a lot as a child for being different, for being boring. Because if you're introverted, you are boring, you know. And I was also called ugly because if you're not light skinned, you are ugly.
Yeah.
So for me, it was an escape. I remember this bookshelf at my mother's house, my grandmother's house, and that's where I used to actually go when the bullying just, was too much. So for me, it's an escape. I also ended up being bullied for that because you read too much. But I just want to say to those girls, yeah.
I think for me, literature is its purpose. And I don't want to sound too deep, but I was raised in the church, guys. Forgive me. But I do feel like I was going one way, pursuing something, but God did not want me there. He wanted me here. So divinely orchestrated ways for me to do this. So through doing this, I'm finding me. I've gained a deeper understanding of myself. Why am I wired this way? So literature is a way to understand myself. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lovely.
And what keeps you hopeful when you write?
What keeps us
Hopeful, yeah.
What do you mean hopeful? Like hopeful? Oh, we'll figure it out. You tell us.
I think for me, my intention is also to represent black people in because what I found, Ntombi said she used to grab books from her grandmother's house, and I was intentional with Fabrics of Love to have a black family that reads. There are these myths that black people don't read, so I was like, this is a very educated black family in Soweto that has a bookshelf, they all read, this is a woman with a master's degree, she's the principal of, because that we need to see more of that represented. Townships are not just crime-ridden, abject poverty, and there are those elements, but I think showing different sides of who we are. The township is a very colorful place. The music in the book, I think it's also an ode to Soweto. The book is set in the 2000s where Kwaito music came out of Soweto, and it was the biggest thing, your boom shakas, your mdus, and your TKZs, and that's what I try to bring across through the story. Our style, the way we dress, how we love to look good, our food, so I want to represent black communities and just show it in a different light, who we really are.
Yeah, and for me, I write with the hope that somebody that grew up like me can see my book and know that it is possible for them. So not necessarily that everybody has to write, but if you have a dream that you have, just by seeing where I come from and where I am now, for you to also have that hope that if you work at your craft hard enough, it will get you places.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, mine's a little different, but I didn't say, like I said, you don't have to protect yourself. You'll find your people will protect you. And writing was the same thing. I didn't set out, I'm not looking for hope. I wrote, and then I looked at what I had made, and I realized that what I was saying about this community, I realized that the humanity I looked at was full of hope. And it surprised me. I thought that I had more darkness. I have a little bit of darkness in me, and I thought that the darkness would come out, and it does. My books they move between light and dark a lot, but what they are overwhelmingly hopeful. And there's this. I was kind of looking for a reason to like humanity and enjoy the world around me and understand it. And what I found was like a common kindness between people, and I think it shines through in all my work. And it, like I said, I didn't set out to do that. That's what I saw after I had done it, and it keeps on appearing, and I keep on being delighted by its appearance, because it is then the thing that is settled in me, So it's almost like art is often a reflection of what's going on around us, and you can't control that, and you should not control that, because artists will reflect the world around them, and I'm so relieved that hope keeps on showing up in my work.
That is beautiful. If there is one thing you'd like readers to take away from healing from childhood, what would it be?
I think personally, it was to forgive my mother, because she's 80 years old. It was actually her birthday yesterday. She's old, so she brought me up how she was brought up. And you can just imagine, for somebody who was born those days, it's not like how we bring our kids up today. We have so many avenues. We have the internet. We just have a lot of aids, in our hands, and which is something that they didn't have. So I think first and foremost is to forgive your mother. Well, I've forgiven my mother, and I also understand that when she was raising me, she was essentially a child as well, So not take everything to heart, forgive her, and also just have that responsibility to say that the pain or the hurt or the trauma, yes, it wasn't my responsibility, but the recovery, the healing, that's my responsibility.
I think, firstly, that we're all in this together.
Yeah.
High School Musical. There's a lot of us, and you're gonna be okay. If I'm okay, you're gonna be okay, But it's a journey, and I don't know if you ever completely heal, but it's a constant, it's an everyday and a conscious journey, to setting up those boundaries also for yourself to protect. Yes, we want to protect. We're talking about protecting our mothers, but it is also about protecting yourself.
I suppose that nothing is one thing, right? So it's complex, and I think we're tempted to tell stories with villains and heroes, but that's a fairy tale. There's no one who's purely good or purely bad, and we're just talking about our parents and the complexity and how we respect them, but our troubles with them. It's good to remember these things, and I was talking about light and dark, and just at all times try and bring them together and resist the urge to tell your own story. We get to tell you stories in novel form, and novels are tricky because they have beginnings and ends, which is comforting, right? And our stories aren't clear that way anymore. But move away from that. Be okay to not see it as one thing, be okay to see it as both things together. And it's complex and it's been difficult to explain. I can't tell you, I'm not being able to explain it properly now either, but that's okay. Just tell a complex story to yourself. Yeah.
Powerful.
Yeah. Thank you so much. We're going to be taking questions. Please raise your hand. We'll be taking them one at a time.
Thanks, Lufefe, and well done on your first panel. I think this was really great.
Like a pro.
And I think just to the authors, I think this is a very difficult conversation to have, and I think thank you so much for the work that you've done and that you continue to do. My question is really around, because I think what I struggle with is accountability, where accountability meets forgiveness. Because I'm like, usually we're told, oh, your mom, this is her first time living in this body. And I'm like, it's also mine, so really. And I think there was also a mention of saying, people lived in this time and therefore this is how they've done things. But I always think we're all always learning and unlearning. And what I struggle with, especially with parents, is it almost feels like we are supposed to be like, oh, they learn that and they can't change the way they do things. And so I think what I want to ask is, how do we think around learning, unlearning, forgiving, but also accountability? Because I'm like, my mom, you did this and I want to hold you accountable. But at the same time, what I'm hearing most of you say is we need to see it as different things. And as I move on and I want to have kids, I'm like, I want to protect my kids from my mom and the things she's done to me. How does one kind of do that dance? And I don't really know if you have a final answer. But
I mean, can I jump in quick?
Yeah.
But like, I don't have a final answer for you, but of course not. Good luck. But the thing is that it's not that your parents should be held accountable as you're holding yourself accountable for, and we're doing the work, we're going to therapies, talking to our friends. So you're doing the accountability yourself. You cannot do it for someone else. There's just no way to make them be accountable. You can only control your own actions. So you do your work, and then like I said about the guilt with my mom, give her a chance to surprise you. That's all you can give her. You don't have to, it's not that she doesn't, like, you can force her to be accountable, but I think sometimes we don't give our parents the chance to step up and be a little different, So that's my opinion.
I also think if you're waiting for someone to say I'm sorry, you're going to wait a long time. And to echo what Ntombi was saying, you can only be responsible for your own healing. But I think the thing that also helps me is just boundaries. I've learned to say no to my mother.
That's good.
I remember this last year when my brother was getting married and we were cleaning up, and there was this stack of chairs, and she called me to come carry the chairs. And I'm like, but your sons are here. What's happening? And I just said, no, I'm not doing it. But I'm just, you have to just have boundaries. And if you need distance, create distance. If spending 2 hours is enough, is your cap, then that's your limit. And yeah, don't do 5 if you're going to be snapping at each other. But if you're but I do think having the conversations to get it out, to say this is what you have done, this is how it left me feeling this. It is necessary for your own healing, but waiting for the I'm sorry, girl.
Yeah. Next question.
So I think you just both answered my question, but I'm just going to ask it anyway. So when you said recovery is your responsibility, you said that, okay, recovery is your responsibility, and I've taken that responsibility so good that I ran away. Not like not ran away. I created business. I created business, and it comes to a point whereby you have to go back home at some point, and the house is still burning, and everybody's oblivious to the house burning, and you kind of like comes back with the reluctancy of answering the call when the call's like, oh, and then where your dad now is back suddenly says I love you once a week. I was like, okay, like you hear it now so often after you've done the work, but the work is done. So like my question is like, can it ever be too late to like allow them back into your life? Also, what that comes with allowing that people back into your life is they are the reason you are here. So you are protecting yourself from them. How do you go about creating boundaries and allowing them like at your own pace? Because black people don't have boundaries when it comes to you are my child, I raised you, you owe me your life. So how does one go about, allowing back into your life, but in a safe way? Because at the end, they are still your family. At the end, I still love them, but I am this way because of them. I have trauma because of them, and I'm trying to protect myself at the end of the day because I did the work on myself.
I moved to Cape Town.
I was going to say that you don't have to let them back into your life. You can forgive someone without actually wanting them to be that near and close to you. Forgiveness is what you do for yourself. So you don't have to let them back into your life. If you feel like you want to run away and go to Cape Town, I mean, to you.
Yeah, so unfortunately, we're out of time. I'm going to take 2 more questions and then close off.
Thank you. Is that on? Okay, thank you for this wonderful group therapy session. I have a very short question. You opened this panel by describing how these processes, your own literary processes, made you see your parents differently, and I'm asking you to do some interpretation here, but how have your own literary journeys and your publications changed your parents' view of you as people and maybe also as more expansive human beings?
For me, what also got me to that point of forgiveness, which is how I was going to answer your question, was empathy. But also, I got to the point of empathy by actually talking to my mother about what had happened, in my childhood. And I got to the point of empathy because she took accountability for what she did and what she couldn't do, to actually understand her world from her point of view, actually led me to that. And this book was, it was therapeutic, not just for me, but for both of us.
I would say, I'll answer your question with tattoos. So like I got my first tattoo when I was 19, and I told my mom about it so that it wasn't rebellion. I was like, in 6 months' time, I'm going to do this thing. And I got it, and when I came home, I showed her. I remember she was reading a book, and she looked up and she was like, "You've ruined your body." And then she just took care of me. And now, maybe like a year after that, and I'm covered in tattoos, and then now if her friends are around, she's like, "Sven, take your shirt off, show them like all your new tattoos." Like she's like, and she's got one on her wrist. And I think that's the growth that I think she was always proud of me. I think they see me different, obviously, with the skills, but they were proud of me before, and they're proud of me still. And it's just getting used to this new expression and medium.
Yeah.
Last question, please.
Sorry, can I ask? Sorry. I think a lot of you touched on reconciliation. Even the questions were mainly on that. But I wanted to ask about your characters, right? You're writing these books, and they were inspired by your own lives. How did you write, I guess, reconciliation for your characters, with their families, with themselves? And how did that shape you? Because I'm guessing you were also going through that process while writing.
Yeah, for me, it's more around empathy, to put yourself in somebody else's shoes and understand a whole lot of things that they are dealing with and things that they used to deal with. That helped me a lot and helped the characters as well to understand, to understand their mothers and understand their parents based on that. Yeah, completely lost my train of thought.
For me, my characters are fiery. They fight back, There really isn't a lot of reconciliation, but I think what I try to do is write very flawed characters. Sven mentioned it where he said there's no a perfect human being, so to bring out the humanity in each character to show their good and bad traits, and I hope my characters are whole people. So there isn't there are villains, but they are horrible. But most of them are not just horrible people, but understanding why are they this way is important. I think also for readers to get that to offer the characters grace.
I would say just quickly, it's to resist that temptation to wrap it up nicely in a neat bow, because my characters do have some resolution, and I think it's a big breakthrough in the story of their lives, but it doesn't solve. Their life doesn't end at that point, and it's just one step closer to healing or coming to this whole panel, coming to terms with our families and our past. So they take a great step, but there's more, and I took a great step too, and I'm busy taking another one now and another one the next day. So it's just to resist the temptation to wrap it up too neatly. Give it some time. I love an epilogue.
All the authors will be downstairs at the authors' table. Take them all your questions. All the books are for sale downstairs. Sven's book is The Nicotine Gospel. Lebo's book is Fabrics of Love. And Ntombi's book is In the Late of Night. So thank you is many things, right? Thank you is understanding. It can also be a prayer. So I do want to thank you for holding the space so beautifully and for showing up with your true selves. And I also want to thank you for being such a wonderful audience for my first time. Please come back next year.
Thank you, guys. It was nice. Yeah.